Hi, good morning from South Bend. I'm here at my mom's house and I was just hustling to get Oli out the door with her to go to the zoo and go on little grandma adventures. So trying to find a good spot here. There's really nice light coming in, but I don't have anywhere to prop up my phone for the live. So I just finished my workout for day 2, the chains. So let me know if you guys have any questions about how to do the chains. If even after you've done the video, you're like, I still don't get this. Like, why are we doing this? But it's one of my favorite, so no bias, but it's my personal favorite way to get in a really quick and effective workout. It's gonna get my heart rate up, get my muscles burning, and get me sweaty when I have really limited amounts of time. So usually I'll do that for 10 minutes, where the kind of chain that we did today for the day 2 workout. So, but let me know any questions. We're gonna be doing one other version of that coming up later. I forget which day, but you're gonna be doing that later on, but different types of movements. So we're gonna be changing up what kind of things we're gonna be chaining up on the repetitions. So hope you enjoy that, and shoot me any questions in the comments if you guys have them, if anything's coming up for you about nutrition, about exercise, about movement. We're gonna kind of break those down now, just what the difference is between them. Hey, Jennifer and Jen, awesome. And I'll be seeing you soon for a walk. So I'll be breaking down the difference between movement and exercise, going over a couple questions that have come up in the group, which I've loved. And if I've missed other ones, I'm sorry. I will be getting through all the posts soon, and can answer your questions tomorrow if I've missed it. I'm not neglecting it. It's just been hard to keep on top of it. Plus, I forgot my charger. Forgot my phone charger and my computer charger when I came to my mom's. So thankfully I finagled something for my phone, but not for my computer. Hey, Kira, oh my gosh, I saw your name and I always say it wrong. Those Irish names. Nice to see you guys popping on. So let's get started. Again, shoot me any questions in the comments, but I'm gonna get started with the ones that have come on. And just to kind of overview before we go into more specific questions, breaking down what the difference is between movement and exercise, because I think you guys have maybe kind of heard or seen me allude to it, especially if you've been following the Body by Banner page for a while, or if you've been working with me in the Magic Makers movement. You guys definitely know what the difference is and how I emphasize movement so much. And then, say a lot of movement and just a little bit of exercise, so just enough. And the difference is that movement is the category of things like walking is my #1 favorite way of moving, slower bicycling, like not going super fast, like speed biking, gardening, playing with your kids, going to the beach and walking across the sand or up the dunes, playing in the sand with your kids, cleaning is a great one, taking the stairs, maybe any opportunity you get, gentler things. So movement are things that we could do for long durations, and they're not going to tax our body. They're not going to put our body into a stress state. And I hope you get an idea of what movement is. Like activities of daily living, anytime you stand as well. So choosing to stand, maybe if you're working on a computer, if you can set it up to stand instead of sit. If you're on phone calls, maybe you can be pacing or walking while you're doing the phone call. Anything like that is considered movement. And that actually makes up a much greater portion of our metabolic burn, like the amount of calories that our body burns per day, than exercise. Even if you're doing an hour of exercise every day, that's only gonna have about 5% of the calories burned. Versus movement and those activities of daily living are gonna make up about, and it's called, if you wanna know the scientific name, is called non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT. So NEAT type of things, type of movements, of activities of daily living make up about 15%. So they actually have a much bigger impact for fat loss, especially for weight maintenance, for overall health than exercise. So exercise oftentimes gets this big push, from medical associations as what we need to be doing more of. And I would say yes, maybe the majority of the world population does need to get in at least more exercise than what they currently are. But even more importantly is to increase their movement and to walk more, because a lot of what we do in the United States especially is sitting in cars, at our desks, watching TV. A lot of those things are, don't require a whole lot of movement in our daily lives. We've taken it out. We've put a lot of convenience in our life, which is nice. Don't get me wrong, but because of that, we've also suffered the consequences in our health. So movement, I just want to emphasize how important movement is, and it can be difficult. There's a big contrast for my type of life when I come to my mom's and back in the kind of a typical Midwest town where we drive everywhere. You can't walk to the store or walk to the gym even, or walk to different places. Like, there's nothing really within walking distance except just to walk, which is lovely. But I find that my steps go way down. in Chicago, where I walk to drop my kid off at school, I walk to go grocery shopping, all these things, it's naturally built into more of a city life. And not to say that cities are better than suburbs or country, by no means, but it just kind of shows just how the convenience of cars and everything else takes out that natural movement. So we have to be even more intentional of getting that movement in. For example, with just a normal day in Chicago, I will easily get to 10,000 steps. And here I will, unless I make a big effort, we'll get like 2,000 steps in. So it's a big difference. I have to be really intentional about it. And I know that a lot of folks, there's a good bit of people that live in the city, so you kind of have to walk anyway. But for those that don't have that naturally built into your day, I just want to encourage you, 30-minute walk per day. You can break that up into 10 minutes here and there. Or if you have a dog, that's great, it's built in. So that's my little soapbox. Movement, woo! But we're doing an exercise challenge, so movement a lot. So move a lot, exercise a little. That's my new model, thanks to my client Cynthia, who like rephrased what I always am telling the ladies in my group. And exercise a little means to do like what we're doing, where we're really pushing the intensity for about 10 minutes every day, or most days of the week. We're kind of making sure we're doing it every single day for these 10 days, but really getting that heart rate up, getting sweaty, getting the muscles burning. That's exercise. That's like actually a stress on the body, a good stress, I would say, if it's done well. And you want like the Goldilocks, a little bit, not too much. And what the difference is that the stress is what causes our body to release hormones that it triggers a cascade effect. So when your body's under that stress of the exercise of like pushing to maybe do a sprint or to really finish that last repetition on a movement with the heavy weight, it triggers the muscles to release and our body to release hormones that will either stimulate more muscle growth, so that muscle tone that a lot of us are looking for. It helps stimulate a cascade of hormones that helps facilitate fat burning. So, and also other health benefits, of course, as well. Increased energy, improved mood, that sort of runner's high that you might be looking for as well, just with the feeling better after exercise. So exercise, but it requires a little bit of that stress. It actually releases cortisol when too much of it is not good. A little bit is actually great for the body. But you also want to just quickly lower it down afterwards. So that's where these short, intense workouts come into play. That's that little bit of exercise, not relying on exercise as a Band-Aid on an inactive life. So number one is move a lot, be active, not stressing the body with those low intensity, kind of just slow walking, gentle things that actually help lower cortisol and helps with fat loss. And then a little bit, just a strategic amount of exercise. So using exercise strategically to change the shape of your body, to stimulate those hormone release for fat loss. And that is gonna be things like what we're doing. HIIT, interval training. Have you ever heard of HIIT? It's a high intensity interval training, that's what it stands for. And it can be really intense. We're gonna do one later in the challenge. I keep saying the week, but we got 10 days. And what else? Circuits like we're doing with weights. You might have heard of metabolic conditioning or Metcons. Those are things where you're doing a circuit at a pretty quick pace with weights. And you're getting that, the four things that you want to look for are the muscles burning, so that you're doing maybe a lot of repetitions on certain, like specific muscle groups. So you're repeating movements instead of just kind of lightly touching on a lot of different movements or body parts. So you get the muscles burning. You get you get breathless, so where you can only say a few words or one short sentence at a time, not able to carry on a conversation. You get heat, so sweaty. You can get like that glistening glow or really sweaty and dripping. and you feel heavy, like the weights feel heavy and challenging, where it's difficult to finish a repetition or two. In the dumbbell guidelines I mentioned, just sort of weight guidelines, where you really want those last 1 to 2 reps. If you're doing like a, sort of 10 repetitions like we did yesterday, for example, you want that last 8, 9, 10 reps to be really hard. You want them to be difficult. Maybe not the first round, but the second, third, fourth rounds, you want to have it be where you need a little rest to finish them out, or it's just like you maybe can only do 8 because your weights are too heavy. So those are the 4 things: muscles burning, getting the lungs breathless, getting the heat turned up, so getting sweaty, and getting heavy, making sure you push the intensity with the weight. So those are markers that you're getting into exercise, that good stress that we want, just enough of it for like 10 to 30 minutes, I would say, a few times a week, not overdoing it. So that's the difference. Let me know if you guys have any questions about the difference between exercise and movement, and I'll be happy to break that down. I'm gonna move into one of the questions. Which one did I say I was gonna cover first? I forget. I'll start with, let's start with the hypothyroidism one. And so Kira mentioned that she just had that diagnosis, and that it's been something that's happened a lot within your family. And sorry that you're dealing with that, first of all. It's extremely common, unfortunately, especially with women. And I'm not going to go into the whole medical, so I just want to kind of give sort of the Cliff Notes version, and also I'm going to include some posts after I finish with some references that I find really helpful, and hopefully you can check those out. One's more of a Cliff Notes version, and the other one gets more in-depth, scientific, and really touches on the whole. Your question, Kira, had been about exercise and hypothyroidism and sort of any considerations for that. So I'm going to focus on that, but really with any thyroid condition, it's a whole lifestyle needs to be taken into consideration. The diet, stress management, environment, and sometimes, medication is needed as a way to help get the levels into good control. But it really having to address all the underlying factors of what caused the problem in the first place is necessary, even if you're using Synthroid or some kind of thyroid medication. So the guideline with exercise is, again, kind of what I was just talking about, just enough, not too much, that Goldilocks effect. So she wanted it just right, not too hot, not too cold. So not too much, not too little, just enough. And to not focus, to not think of like we sometimes do or hear from doctors, is to put that Band-Aid effect on an inactive lifestyle and say, oh, you need to exercise more. But what often happens is that people start to overdo it. Maybe they were couch potato kind of before, which is a stress on the body as well, especially the thyroid. And then they're like, oh shoot, I need to address this problem. I need to start cutting calories and exercising more. This can be catastrophic to the thyroid and make it even worse. So definitely I'm opposed to extremes. And especially with hypothyroidism, you want to be moderate, and you want to think of increasing movement. I'm not going to go into nutrition, but nutrition considerations are really important. And I'm just going to give a shout out to Stephanie Kleinberg, my good friend, and she was my own health coach, and she specializes on hormonal issues for women and optimizing the hormones for women, especially related to thyroidism. So please check her stuff out. I can link her as well in the comments, Stephanie Kleinberg. Okay, so guidelines for hypothyroidism. Definitely gearing towards interval training, so where you push the intensity so that you have to rest. It's what I'm encouraging you guys to do in my circuits. It's rest-based training, and again, this is not something I came up with. I wish I could credit it. It's from Metabolic Effect, a group that I've followed for many years and have been using that style of training, and it really allows it to be individualized person to person, and what their level of fitness is really varies. And for especially this group, there's a lot of different levels. Rest-based training is ideal because it really allows you to push the intensity for your level right now, and that level will hopefully change over time, and you'll need to push even harder in the future because you can, and because if you want to keep seeing results, you need that increased challenge. So rest-based training, what is it? It's essentially where you push hard on the intensity with the pace and with weight, challenging weight and difficulty of exercise, just enough so that you have to rest. The goal is actually to rest and not to pace yourself. So no pacing, no plodding along, no just getting it done. It's where you get that breathlessness, you get that burning, you get the weights feeling heavy, and you get the sweat going, and you have to take rest. And instead of like, oh, I'm just gonna keep pacing myself through this 10 minutes, I want you to have to rest, especially after the first like 3-4 minutes. If you're not taking rest, then you probably aren't pushing yourself hard enough, either with the weight or the intensity of the movement. So the goal is to rest with rest-based training. That's where the magic happens. So no pacing. So that style of effort is really important. So interval training, focusing on that for if you have hypothyroidism, Kira, and then I want to address, because I know you love running, and then things like circuits or metcons, where you're using those weights similar to what we're doing in a lot of the workouts, like you did today and yesterday for day 1 and day 2. I would say no more than 20 minutes. For, like if, again, everyone needs some kind of individualized prescription often, but the general recommendation, I would say 10 to 20 minutes, about 3 to 5 times a week of that more strategic exercise of interval training, like a HIIT or rest-based training kind of intervals, or metcons, where you're using that weight and doing circuits like we are. And to move away from more of that steady pacing kind of activity like running, like just a steady run. And I know you love running, and I will never tell someone just not do an exercise if they love it and it gives them a lot of mental health benefits, because running especially is amazing for improving energy, boosting mood, helping with depression. There's so many wonderful things about it. My husband is a plodder. He's a slow runner, and he loves to just go and do like 20 to 30 minutes at the gym. And I'm never gonna say, oh, you're doing it wrong, Fernando, you stop doing that. He knows what I think is better, but he loves it, and he has a super stressful job, and for him that's like really enjoyable for him, and he likes it, and he's actually going to do it. So that's kind of the little like side note. But if you want to optimize your running and help prevent your body from being more stressed and to make the thyroid issues worse, I would say maybe take your runs, most of them, and maybe throw in intervals, where you could do some kind of going up and down on the intensity, where you're maybe start off at a nice easy pace, but then you throw in like a minute of more of a fast pace, of a sprint almost, and then you taper back down, or you walk for a little bit, and then you do that again, where you're toggling between different paces. So that would be a suggestion interval. Or doing hills, which is hard in Buenos Aires. There aren't hills really. I can tell you a couple places to go. Or you can do tempo runs, where you run slowly to start, and then you increase the pace. So say you have your base pace is, just as an example, 10-minute per mile pace. On a tempo run, you would want to carve off 30 seconds per minute per mile pace. So it would be, you'd aim for warm up for 5 minutes, and then tempo for 10 to up to like 15 minutes, I would say at this point, 10 to 15 minutes of a 9.5 minute per mile pace if 10's your normal, so that it's like a doable push. It's a little bit more intense, and then you cool down with a walk or an easy jog for a little bit. So interval runs, tempo runs, sprints are also my personal fave. So I always went to the Rosedale Park in Buenos Aires, right near my house, for those of you who know it, and it's got a mile circuit around the lake, and there's 100-meter markers, and I would do 100-meter sprints and then walk back or walk to the next one. Really slow walk. So basically I would sprint for about 20 seconds or more or less, and then walk for at least a minute. So 3 times the amount of time I would be running, I would be resting. So it's a lot of rest and just enough to really sprint hard again. So those are my tips for exercise. I'm looking at my notes. Exercise considerations for hypothyroidism. Again, and weight training. We're not getting into that too much on this challenge, but heavier weight training. So where you go to a gym, or if you have a setup at home with a barbell and you're getting to powerlifting. Powerlifting is amazing and a really awesome way to exercise when you have thyroid issues. But I'm not gonna go into that too much right now. And then again, like I said, it's a whole lifestyle approach. So I'm going to link an article or two below and reference Stephanie Kleinberg as well as a reference for more information on that, because that's really the most important thing. Exercise is a good part of it. So just a reminder, like I said at the beginning, movement is key. Lots of movement, just a little bit of exercise. movement, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT movement is 15% of like our metabolic burn, and exercise usually makes up just about 5%. So you really, if you want to have more of an impact on for fat loss, weight loss, and just your overall metabolism, focusing on movement is key. So get those walks in, ladies, get that movement, stand up, move around when you're on the phone calls, watching this. I hope you're not sitting down. Move, ladies, move. Okay. Quickly on the last question was about nutrition, and oh cool, wait, before I go into nutrition, I just Laura has a couple questions. If you don't get sweaty, would it probably mean you're just not using enough weight? So Laura, yeah, everyone is a different kind of sweater. I find I don't tend to sweat a whole lot, partly because I don't go long, like super long. Some people sweat a ton after just a couple minutes of starting to exercise. So there's really a lot of variability. I find with sweat amount, and hydration, I think is a factor in that too. Hydration, genetics. But yes, if you typically are a sweater and you're not sweating very much, then perhaps, yes, going up on the weight or increasing the pace a bit safely. So number one, safety. So really learn the movements, and then once you have a good base and you understand, you feel safe in the movements, you feel like you have good form, then you can push the intensity a bit more. For example, the chain workout today, to really get the most out of it, you have to move pretty quickly and use pretty heavy weights. Like today I had 10 pounds weights, and I usually use 16 or 20 pound weights, and there's a huge difference. I was not sweating nearly as much, but it's okay because my back is still not great. And so I was intentionally taking it easier, stepping back sometimes instead of jumping and stepping forward for the burpee movements. Totally fine. Again, you gotta be safe, number one. So that's just kind of my story of like how I modified it today. So I wasn't sweating as much. So yeah, it could be that you need more weight, or maybe need to push the pace a little bit. And then she said, when I was in high school, I never thought I would voluntarily do sprints, but now I love them too. I know, right? It kind of reminds me of soccer. It takes me back to soccer, and also line drills from basketball when I briefly had a stint playing basketball. That was the joke. Trinity's like, for those of you who know Trinity High School, it's like, oh, it was a super small school. And they're like, oh, you're an athlete, you played soccer, you should play basketball, because they were starting a team. I'm like, oh, I'll try it. Terrible. I had better foot-eye coordination than hand-eye coordination. Okay, nutrition. So Jennifer Wren asked about nutrition. Is it better to do 3 meals a day, or like eat small frequent meals, like the 6 meals a day kind of thing? Oh, Kira, you're back. I answered your question. I don't think you were on for it though. So when I finish, make sure you can go back and watch that about the hypothyroidism. Sorry, I didn't answer it while you were on. I was trying to catch you. So the annoying answer for the nutrition question is it depends. Sorry, it kind of does. But the general answer, and that depends, why it depends, because we all have different genetics, we all have different lifestyles, we all have a lot of factors that really influence our nutrition, and perhaps medical conditions and things like that. So I would say, or someone with diabetes, having smaller, more frequent meals could be good for them. For other people that are trying to prevent, like they're having elevated fasting blood glucose levels, and they're going towards having diabetes and they want to prevent it, I would say having small frequent meals probably isn't the best for them. So again, it depends. I would say in general, I am a huge advocate. We over snack a ton in the United States, especially our kids. We're like giving kids food all the time. Just my huge pet peeve is like, kids do not need to be eating all the time. They do not have to have their blood sugar spiked all the time. We don't need to be pacifying them with food. So soapbox. So in general, kids and adults, we snack way too much in the States is my personal opinion. And I'm a huge advocate for 3 meals a day. Sometimes even 2 if you're trying intermittent fasting, which is a strategy. It's not a solution, it's not a guaranteed solution for everyone. That's a whole other, that's like something to add on later. So I'm just mentioning intermittent fasting can work for some people, and that's when you would have 2 meals a day. But I would say 3 meals a day in general is what I would recommend. And the reason for that, and moving away from smaller, more frequent meals, or what that actually is kind of like snacking, is that you're actually spiking your blood sugar more often and triggering the release of insulin. And that is a huge fat storing hormone. So if you're trying to lose fat especially, then having small frequent meals can kind of backfire. When it can be helpful is, for instance, people who are really trying to drop weight like for a show, like for a physique competition or things like that, and they're like basically eating protein and low carb vegetables, and they're carrying around their Tupperwares with them, and they're trying to really drop weight quickly and like fluid weight for a show, like for a competition. But I think in general, I would recommend 3 solid meals a day, and really focusing on your protein, like lean protein, making sure you're having a good protein source at every meal, and then the foundation, like the movements, the foundation of an active lifestyle. Vegetables are the foundation. Low carb veggies, the ones that tend to be more watery when you cook them, like leafy greens, of course lettuces, zucchini, anything like that is going to be cruciferous vegetables. Those are low carb veggies. The starchier ones that are more dry, those are high carb veggies and are great. They're high in fiber and nutrients. Those would be ones that I would use strategically, like for your carbs. I would recommend those over like grains and breads and things and pastas. So having the foundation be tons of vegetables, especially the low carb ones, and in abundance. You can never have too much of those. And then so fill up at least half your plate with low carb veggies, protein for about 25% of a plate, and then the other 25%, those high fiber carb starches. So usually from root vegetables, whole grains, and those kinds of things, and then healthy fats to kind of give, be more satisfying and tasty, and seasonings, of course, and spices. Those would be my recommendation. Try and really have your meals focused on that, and aim for 3 meals a day. And even those breakfasts, try and get those vegetables in. It's a challenge, but if you can get vegetables at breakfast, it just is an amazing way to start your day, and a really good way to optimize your health. And if you're trying to aim for fat loss, do it. Okay. No worries, Kara. So as soon as I finish, you'll be able to watch the replay in a couple minutes, so hopefully you can get that information and it'll be helpful for you. Okay, guys, that's it for me. And I'm really excited about all the check-ins and the energy of the group. I love that you guys are commenting on each other's and liking and just giving high fives all around. So keep that up. It's super fun. I know, like if you post something, if you see people liking it or commenting, it just feels really good. So I think, just as much as you can offer that to others when you see a post come up, just give them some love. And there's something else I wanted to mention. I don't know. There's so many things I want to mention, but I don't want to overload you with too much information. Okay, have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you guys again tomorrow at 9:30 Central Time. I'm on Eastern Time right now, so I had to think for a second. Okay, see you tomorrow.